Throughout this past 2 weeks, we've explored a pretty simple idea that organizations are networks or complex adaptive systems. And the value of a team not only comes from the people involved, but from the quality of the connections between them. We talked about Metcalfe's Law and hiring and culture, and now we arrive at the next practical question. What really is leadership? Because if organizations are networks rather than machines, leadership might look very different than most people have historically imagined. Many leadership models are built around control, more policies, more oversight and reporting and approval steps and supervision. The assumption is understandable. If outcomes are inconsistent, leaders often try to increase control. You've probably been there. I've been there. And sometimes it's appropriate. But in complex systems, control has its limits. You cannot directly control every conversation or every decision, every interaction, or trust and how it forms, when it forms. You can't control initiative or ownership or culture. All of those things emerge in the right circumstances, which means that leadership becomes less about controlling outcomes and more about shaping the conditions. Let's try a story. A mechanic repairs machines. A gardener creates conditions. The mechanic adjusts components directly. The gardener influences the things in the garden. The water, how much of it? The soil, what kind? The space between plantings. The gardener doesn't force growth. The gardener creates the conditions where growth becomes more likely. Leadership often works the same way. You can't force trust, even if you know all the ingredients that go into building it. You can create conditions that encourage trust. You cannot force accountability, but you can create the conditions that support accountability, letting it emerge. And you can't force ownership, but you can create the conditions where ownership becomes more likely. This is leadership in a complex adaptive system. And this is where leadership becomes a discipline rather than a position. Many people think leadership is about influence or communication or fancy vision, and all those things matter, don't get me wrong. But leadership is also the repeated practice of shaping the environment around your team and within your team. It's creating clarity and alignment and accountability, opportunities for those things. Opportunities for connection and learning and ownership. Most importantly, it's doing all of those things, creating all those conditions consistently, not just when it's convenient. Because networks are always adapting. So if you stop tending to your environment, you're going to notice drift. And that is what compounds over time, as we've learned the last 2 weeks. This is one reason I often defend things that people love to complain about. Morning huddles, team meetings, your strategic planning retreats, case reviews, if you're in healthcare, cross-functional discussions. How often do you talk to a team from a different department? Most people evaluate these activities based on efficiency. How long did it take? How much time was wasted? How many decisions were made? Was the meeting productive? Those questions do matter, but they're missing something critically important. How did the activities strengthen the network? Because every conversation creates more familiarity and trust and alignment and a shared language, and more importantly, a shared understanding. The meeting is not just transferring information. It's about the relationships and whether or not they're healthy within that infrastructure. This brings us to a concept that I've talked about before, above average team members. It sounds a little pretentious, but I still love it. Many organizations spend enormous amounts of time trying to improve systems. Processes, policies, technology, documentation. This goes here at this certain time. All that matters. We need those things, okay? But exceptional teams are usually built around people who improve the network itself. They prepare and follow through and communicate and ask questions and support their teammates. They elevate the standards and they solve problems before they become a crisis. And they strengthen the people around them. In networks, above average team members increase the value of every connection they touch. Their impact extends far beyond their individual output. This also explains why ownership matters so much. Doesn't mean you own the business, it means you own your job. Compliance is about following instructions. Ownership is about improving conditions. Compliance asks, what am I supposed to do? Ownership asks, what would help in this circumstance? Compliance protects responsible boundaries. Ownership strengthens the network. Ownership notices problems, fills the gaps, improves communication, increases trust, and creates resilience within the network. So what is the real job of leaders? It's not about controlling people. It's not about monitoring every action or having all the answers. The real job is designing environments where productive interactions become more likely, setting clear expectations, having strong values that are acted upon, healthy accountability, frequent communication, constructive conflict, continuous learning, and shared purpose. These are not soft, maybe nice to have. They are core structural elements that shape how the network behaves. And ultimately, they determine what the organization is going to become. So Metcalfe's law teaches us that networks become more valuable as connections increase. Organizations teach us something even more important. The quality of those connections matters. A talented team with weak relationships struggles. An average team with strong relationships often surprises everyone with their performance. Culture emerges from these interactions. Performance emerges from these interactions. Trust emerges from these interactions. Leadership, your leadership exists to shape those interactions, not through control, but through design and repetition. Because organizations are not machines waiting to be managed. They're living networks constantly adapting to the conditions around them. The best leaders understand something many never learn. You're not simply managing people. You're helping to design environments in which people connect.